Well, good morning again. I hope that it's all right that we are seated down here in front of the podia up on the stage. It just didn't feel that the conversation that we wanted to have could be had at these very formal kinds of places up here. So we moved down to be closer to all of you. And the first thing we would like to do is to introduce the members of our panel, and they are going to tell you a little bit about their own vocation to the charism story. So, Astor, would like to begin with you, please.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Father Astor Rodriguez. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. And my story with the Vincentians, or the Vincentian family, started when I was very young. I grew up in a neighborhood where there was a lot of Sisters of Charity of New York, Sisters of Charity of New Jersey. We had Trinitarians that are founded by a Vincentian father, Father Judge, and also the Vincentian Fathers and Daughters of Charity. So I grew up in that environment with the schools and also the church and the community. And I didn't know exactly that that was the Vincentian way. I didn't know that that was the Vincentian way, but I was nourished in the way they lived their life as a community, the way they expressed their joy of being together and sharing and being open to others. In my parish, the doors were never closed. We were always there. Sometimes the priest had to say, go home. You have a family waiting for you. But we felt very at home being in the church with our Vincentian family that I didn't know exactly that was the Vincentian family until later on. As I grew up, the Vincentian Fathers had the retreat house for the Diocese of Brooklyn, and I entered the retreats as a youth. They're called the Jornadas de Vida Cristiana, and I did my retreat, and little by little entered a little more deeper of my commitment of being with them. And during after 4 years, I was around 18 years old, the Provincial of Barcelona was at Mass. And in the Mass, after having received communion and after meditation, he asked me, would you like to come and join us? And I just answered after receiving communion, and I said, yes. I wouldn't have said yes today. Maybe because I didn't know what it entailed, but I would have, I'm sure. But it came from a process of what I have lived with them. I felt at home. I felt joy. I felt that they were speaking about me without ever telling me. And that process began in 1984. So now I'm 27 years of Vincentian priest. I've worked in different ministries in the congregation around the world. I've lived in Barcelona. I've worked in Barcelona. I've worked in Dominican Republic, in New York, Honduras. I've been to Panama in our mission, and many other places that's taken me because of being a Vincentian and being part of the community and the family. So to me, it's just, it's been a process nourished by people like you that I was lucky enough to have in my life as I grew up in New York City. And I'm happy to continue to live that and also offer that.
Thank you. All right, Denise, would you tell us your story, please?
Hello, good morning. I'm Denise. I'm Lebanese from Lebanon. I'm actually now living in Rome. I'm studying at the Gregoriana University. And my story within the Vincentian family started 30 years ago in a bomb shelter where I met a girl and we became friends. And I had this hunger to hear more about Jesus, to learn more about God. And she told me, come and join us within the VMY, Vincentian Marian Youth. At that time, the Vincentian family was not founded yet, like 90s, before 94. Oops, you know my age. So at that time, I went to the Vincentian Marian Youth to hear about Jesus, and I discovered the dimension of a community who learn together, who pray together, and I met Vincent de Paul, and it was, I felt in love with him. It was like, I don't know how to describe it, but this man changed my life. This morning I was thinking about the vocation thing in every person's life, and I imagined it like a journey. I received a call. I was invited to the kingdom of God. So I had to take my car. I had to put the address in the Google Maps, accompanied by people. I have the mirrors to see what's behind, and the journey started. During the journey, I've met people who helped me where to go, who gave directions. Google Maps was like the interior voice, also what helps you to go. The co-pilot, the spiritual director, the people in the association and also in the Vincentian family. All of this is like leading the way in that journey through life. And this is how I see my life. It's a kind of different pieces of puzzle that are like gathering together, and every time an event happens, I understand more the why of other events in my life. And even if I don't know yet what are the future directions, I'm sure that God is leading with the help of the other people in my life. Reading the signs is very important. So when it's red, when it's green, go left, go right, it's very important. And we cannot do that without the prayer. My journey within the Vincentian family started in the Vincentian Marian Youth. And after like 10 years being a member, I was elected as a national president for the association in Lebanon. And it was not among my plans. I had other plans, and oops, I found myself elected as a president. And it was overwhelming. I owe all my being now for this journey. After that, I've been elected in the International Council for the VMY, and afterward, I've been asked to collaborate with Father Agostino in the International Commission for the collaboration within the Vincentian family. This is in few minutes my journey with God and with you, Vincentian family. Thank you.
And Mark?
Good morning. Mark Chinara. I live in the UK. I work for DC Services. It's a charity that was founded less than a decade ago by the Daughters of Charity in Great Britain as part of their progress to lay the foundations for the continuation of the charism as they grow older and decline in number. We support several small organizations operationally, strategically, but crucially around how to keep the values alive within those organizations, and we can come back to this a little later on. I suppose if many people here are speaking around their journeys as Vincentians into the family from an early age, it's fair to say I kind of stumbled in through the side door. I was raised with the church, within the church, never really knowingly or significantly encountering the Vincentian family. Later in life, I went on to work with homelessness services, first in Liverpool, then in London, across different organisations, and one day saw a vacancy with an organisation called The Passage. I read up on it. It had a good reputation. It was a Christian organisation, a Catholic organisation, and that was attractive. And I went for the interview, and the description of what Vincentian meant in delivering homelessness services sounded good. Then I joined, and then I saw in action what that really meant. And from maybe a decade or so of working with homelessness services elsewhere, seeing that the fundamental dignity through every part of the organisation, from the minute somebody is walking through the door, to the way that they're supported, to the follow-on support after they've found a home, struck me as this is special. So it was only really through working with The Passage that I became involved with the Vincentian family, the Vincentian community. After a few years, we were working with the Daughters of Charity, looking at developing a shared program on values. Could we put together a training course? Could we put together some kind of collaboration initiative for other organisations that the Daughters had founded and had been able to step back from? And after a few years of doing that, I moved across to join the Daughters of Charity and DC Services. And since joining DC Services and seeing not just in homelessness, but in care for the elderly, care for people with acquired brain injuries, support for families from the Roma community, chased across Europe and found themselves in this economically devastated sub-region just outside Glasgow, the constant of that dignity, that being able to walk alongside people, not just serve them, strikes me as something extraordinary. And the more I've worked with the Vincentian family within the UK, and seeing the examples elsewhere internationally, it only grows stronger. So my journey has maybe been a little more recent than many people, but it's one that I found has been quite powerful and continues to shape the services we deliver today.
Thank you. And Sister Veronica.
So my story in the Vincentian family has elements of all the other stories. And I think the basic pedagogical concept that God had with my life is going from surprise to surprise. When I first had contact with my congregation, I was still at school and I was reflecting what to do with my life. And the only thing I was clear about was that my life and my faith had to be one. Two legs for one person to walk on. And when I got acquainted with the sisters of my congregation, I found that their way of life, though I had never thought about being religious, could be the answer to that wish. So rather naively, I entered the congregation being sure about the call by Christ to be a religious, not to know anything about Vincent. You have to realize that in Germany at that time, nearly nobody knew Vincent, not to speak about Louise at all. So it's not like in some other European countries or all over the world. Vincent is not so well known in our regions. It has changed a bit now, but at that times, we speak about the late 80s, it really was rather unknown. So I got acquainted with him during my novitiate, and I learned that there was something that matched very well with my own values, that being near the people and being near God can be one. So that is the guiding line that is still worth it today. One thing that came after the novitiate, and it was one of the first encounters with someone else of the Vincentian family, when Sister Alfonsa Richards from Köln, a daughter of charity, visited our congregations in the Federation and told us about Louise. And that was something that I today can name as a vocation, in the vocation to learn about Louise. We don't have her writings in German till now, so it's just some pioneering work, and that's something I like very much still today. In my congregation, I did some formation. I had a nursing training. I could work with young people in pastoral fields. We had a little house of vocations where I could serve for 8 years. And now I'm in the parish work. And everything was good for me to know better what it really means to be a sister of charity. Being near the people, how they are, where they are, what were their needs. And the second thing I'm very convinced about, that it's only possible doing Vincentian work in a network. Even if we don't have up to now a family that's very structured in our regions, but you can motivate people finding their Vincentian charism and desire to be near the people, and that's a good basic to be in contact and dialogue.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. So a wonderful example of the breadth and depth of who we are as members of the Vincentian family are here, speaking with one another and with you. Now the rest of the time that we are together, we can just have conversation. So as the Spirit moves you, you can respond. All right. One of the things that I think that Regina and Eduardo were trying to focus on was where are the young adults in terms of becoming interested in membership in one of the institutions or organizations connected to the Vincentian family. Do you feel in yourself a kind of an urgency to work together within the family to attract young people to what we have found so rich and so exciting, really, within the family?
When Sister Regina started to talk about the youth, I remembered myself when I first worked with the first group of youth at the Vincentian Marian Youth. And in fact, I discovered myself there. I discovered the passion I had talking with the young people. And it always has been like that. And I discovered that youth, young people, need us. She said that we have to listen to them, but also they want to listen to us. I've always, felt the need in their hearts for like a guidance or something, a word. Like I've been once asked about how to pray. I don't know how to pray. A young cousin. She doesn't go to any association. She doesn't even go to church. But she had this need, and she felt the need to talk about this to me. And I think we have to be there among the youth. I feel the need of a lot of answers for their lives. And this makes me sometimes sad, because sometimes we are like, we have a lot to do, we organize things, but we miss the moment, a question, a feeling, someone is searching to have an answer for his life. I experimented this with several persons, and this is how I felt the need for us to be there, among them and for them.
Yes.
There are two things that are in my mind regarding your question. One is the thing Eduardo said, the charism is not only for the others, but also for them who serve. So one very important thing I think the family can do for each of us is to nourish the passion in us, because that's the only instrument we have ourselves. And when the fire and the passion is in us, we will be able to spread something. So that's the first thing. And another thing, adding to Denise, we have the experience that's not only the youth we can talk to, it's also young adults who have started and have gone a little piece of way. They have done a formation, they have first experience in the working world, and they see what we had in the picture, that everything is much and difficult, and they seek for a new orientation, and they find the sources of faith and spirituality, and they are hungry for nourishment in that way. So I think perhaps in this circumstances the family can help to be attentive to different realities.
I was remembering what Sister Regina said, that we were also young ones, and remember also our insecurities and our doubts, and we also remember people that guided us, that were available to us, and made it possible for us to grow because they were with us walking in our journey. They had things to say to us, their stories, and we were listening, even though we didn't want to be told everything to do. But when they shared with us their passion, it spoke to who we were. And it's really funny that I've gotten to work wherever I've been ministering in every country in different ministries. It's always been a blessing that we've been involved with the youth. And, you know, it was kind of taking those risks to walk with, to be there, to be open to those questions that we may not have all the answers, but we're willing to listen to them and maybe also discover the novelty, the newness of what they're needing and we're needing to grow together. And being in this world, when we had the universities and the parish work, there's always moments. We just have to be open to that. We have to be desiring to just meet the people where they're at. You know, I'm a New Yorker and I live in New York, and everything has to be planned from when you get up to when you go to bed. And I pray a lot about the sacrament of the moment. God can speak to us in so many ways, through so many situations, to so many different people, different ages, especially our youth and young adults. Are we willing to be there, to be present, to listen to, as Sister Regina was telling you, to also offer who we are, not imposing who we are. Invite them, be with them, walk with them in their journey. Help them discover, help them to see where God is taking them. Being able to let go of our own sometimes baggage and help us discover the newness of our own vocations, their vocations, and where God is taking us. To me, that's a blessing. I was blessed to be the vocation director for our province, and many times we see our communities are aging, and many people say, oh, tomorrow we won't be. Don't worry. You know, wasn't it St. Vincent that said that God doesn't need us anymore? That's all right. We've done our job. But I think he's not finished with us yet. And more as a Vincentian family, where our cause is to walk with our poor, be with our poor, continue to walk and journey, empower them, and create different things and new things to resolve the different poverties that are arising. You know, do not be afraid of what our age is. Just be attentive for what God is calling us today. You know, he will bring those vocations about. But are we willing to be the vehicles, those instruments that are able to touch others' lives, inspire other youth and young adults to discover that Vincentian charism. And that's where I think we should be. Whether it be in the parish work or work in universities or work in hospitals, there's always something that we can do if we're attentive to where people are at.
I think the word that's really stood out today so far is invite, an invitation. And I think all the avenues that we have open, the invitation for a place where you can be heard, you can be listened to explore spirituality is key. But I also think there can be invitation through example. And crucial, sorry. I'm from Liverpool. This is really slow. I think looking at the Generation Y, Generation X, as I said, that was coming through this morning, in an invitation through example, I think far more than telling people what we've done is showing people what we do. Amen. And how that works. So as well as the avenue to explore your spirituality and get closer in your relationship, it's also saying this is our impact. This is what we do. And saying everybody's been young once. The common theme through the ages with young people is that burning desire to do, to serve. Look to America now. The only constituency with the guts to stand up and say, we don't want guns in schools, is children. Look at Sweden. The biggest constituencies to stand up and say the world is on fire is children, teenagers, young adults. There is a burning desire to serve other people, their community, and beyond their community, the wider world. And for me, that's what the Vincentian family has been doing for 400 years. There's an extraordinary example in every single country of that service to others. And so I think as well as inviting people in and saying, we will listen, you can invite people in by saying, look at what we do. Come and join us. And in joining and in serving, many individuals will have their own journey and encounter the spiritual foundation and the drive and the influence. But I think we need to keep demonstrating how we serve, how they can help, because the desire to serve is clearly there.
Thank you.
I just want to add one thing, but in French. It's easier for me. Je voulais juste souligner, après ce que il vient de dire Marc, ce n'est pas par hasard que les papes donnent beaucoup d'importance aux jeunes. Parce que eux, c'est l'énergie, c'est la force. À un certain âge, nous commençons à dire on peut faire ça, on ne peut pas faire ça. Mais les jeunes, ils sont animés par une certaine énergie qui les pousse à faire les choses. C'est pas que c'est irrationnel, ils pensent, mais ils sont poussés, ils ont cette énergie que nous commençons parfois à perdre. Et comme il dit Pape François, on n'est pas des sofas. We are not couch. That's why I spoke in French. So, c'est ce que je voulais souligner. Les jeunes sont le futur de l'Église, sont le futur de la famille vincentienne.
You know, when we think of Vincent, especially, we think of someone who spent his life doing. And I think that more recently we have become aware that Vincent was really a contemplative in action, that his spirituality came out of a twin reservoir of prayer, and also of action. And I'm wondering if you would like to speak to that twin spirituality and action in terms of how we can invite and encourage young people to become part of our family.
why don't you talk about the water yesterday, the example you used?
I was going to make an experiment, but I didn't, so I'll tell you about it. Imagine a glass and a bottle of water. If I put the water in the glass and I continue, the water will overflow. And this is how we will be witnesses. This is how we can spread out the word. By filling ourselves first, and then it will overflow automatically without any effort. I gave another example that our spiritual director at the VMY used to give us. If I give Mark a slap, he cannot choose to have pain or not. It's the consequence. So when we are loved, when we feel that love, when we are connected 24 hours with the source of this love, we cannot choose to love the other or not. It will overflow.
One thing that strikes me every time I knew is that our spirituality, the Vincentian charism, is very blessed because our house of spirituality has two doors. You can come in by the one door of desire of being useful, of doing something useful, doing something with a meaning to the people around you and the world. That's one door, that's the right one. But you can as well come through the other door. You can come by a desire to have spiritual deep experience, being in prayer, being in silence, being in adoration. And that's something that we experience very strongly among the young people around us, the desire of finding internal peace in being close to God in a very silent and contemplative way. So both of the doors are real Vincentian doors, and both of them can lead to the same interior of the house, and I think it's really a chance we have.
What's that Vincent phrase? If God is in the center of your life, no words are necessary. Your mere presence will touch hearts. It flows from our really oneness, desire to be one with God and also be one with our neighbor. And that, I think, little by little, we grow in that spirit. I think we, for many years, have always talked about Vincent action, Louise action. Louise, we always knew she was a little more contemplative, her life and formation, but we've always talked about Vincent being that doer. And it's true, he did. He let the moments and encounters he had in Folleville and Châtillon, those moments touched his life, but it also nurtures his spirituality. I mean, what did he get up at 4 in the morning or something to start prayer? And then continue to do that and also incite others to have that encounter with God. So it doesn't flow from an emptiness, it flows from a fullness or desire to continue to grow and be one with God so he can continue to be one in neighbor and see Christ in his neighbor. So I think for us as Vincentian family, I think Father Thomas has been helping us lately acquire that again as he talks about Vincent as the spirituality of being a Vincentian. And that we have in many of our founders. We go back to them when we see that constantly. Elizabeth Seton and Louise and everything else. There's always a desire to know more about God, be one with our God, but it leads them to the same thing. It doesn't lead to them only to a fullness of themselves. It leads them to give of themselves completely to those who they encounter and serve and invite others in that same mission to be one with them in the service of our neighbor.
Thank you.
I think in
Mark.
Sister Veronica speaking around the two doors in, it raises for me the issue of the Vincentian family as a door itself. And I feel like I can't come to Rome and miss an opportunity to make myself unpopular. Because we were speaking a little last night around maybe one of the issues of perception with the younger generations in the church is the Catholic Church not as inclusive as it could be. You're coming in from outside, you know nothing of the Vincentian family, and you see the church and you find a place where, as a newcomer, you can see that women can't lead. Married people or people in relationships can't lead. You may not feel welcome. Whereas you look at the Vincentian family and you see Daughters of Charity across the world for hundreds of years leading. You look at the more inclusive aspects. You look at St. Vincent de Paul Society, where people in relationships and married people lead and serve the poor across the world. And I think there is an opportunity, not just looking at how we can encourage people within the church to grow in their spirituality, but the Vincentian family can be far more outward looking and inclusive in bringing people in through demonstrating the service. And in many, many years to come, I am confident in my Catholicism, the church will change. But for now, I think the Vincentian family shows some of the very best of us in how anybody can lead and can serve. And that, for me, is a fantastic opportunity of people coming in through that door and exploring their spirituality.
I'm sorry, but in French. Pour moi, il y a une nuance. Parce que, écoutant Marc maintenant, j'ai l'impression comme si l'Église, la famille vincentienne. Mais ce n'est pas ça. La famille vincentienne fait partie de l'Église. We are part of that church. We are the church. So if we are as women leading in the Vincentian family, so we are leading in the church with everyone in his place. There is a lot to do in other places, but we are already the church.
Yes. Go ahead.
All I can say is you're right, and we are. But for me, family, good family, question and criticize whilst supporting, and we still need to be able to do that.
So you each have one last shot at saying something to this wonderful audience who has gathered here that they can take home with them in terms of the process that we have been gathering with.
I'm hearing echoes over there, that's why. Don't be afraid to tell your story. Don't be afraid to take a risk. We are greatly gifted as individuals and as a community and as a family. We have so much to offer and so much to receive. Don't be afraid to tell people your journey, and don't be afraid to meet them where they're at and desire to walk together to what the Lord has in store for all of us. And I think that is a great future for our family and for our commission as vocations as we continue to go forward. Let us be attentive, let us be joyful, but let us go forward.
I suppose I would say do more doing, show people, rather than telling them, show people what that is, and continue to lead by example. For me, those are the attractive features that people will be drawn to and will come into question.
I would add, let's be joyful. Let's make what we are living as an experience be reflected in our way of dealing with others and how we treat others, and may the smile be the visa to enter to every heart.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
Today in the morning, you, Sister Mary, said the only answer is love. So love is a great word. I'd say one of the things I think it's the most important is to like the time we live in, to like the people we live with, and not be so pessimistic. We have a God that is journeying with us, and He is prepared to share everything that's in human life, in our lives and the lives of the people around us and with us. So I think the most important thing is to be witness to this presence of God in everything that makes human life. And a second thing I would borrow from St. Louis, who said it's wonderful to change the world by very little things. So the very little things are really the things that change the world, and we can do very, very many little things.
So is the Vincentian family in good hands when we have people like these four wonderful panelists who have shared so much of their life's journey with us? Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Now we are going to invite you to another breakout session with your language group. Now, it was a little like herding cats yesterday as we tried to discover where it was that we needed to be. But today we know. I would encourage us, please, to keep the group that you're in small so that everyone has an opportunity to participate. All right? In your folders, there is the paper with the small group questions. They are there for just if you wish to use them, or if you have other things that you would like to discuss in terms of what we heard from Regina and Eduardo and from the panel. Please make sure that in your group you have a facilitator who simply calls the group together, and a recorder who will put down on the app the important things that you wish to have transmitted to the rest of the groups. We are going to have this breakout session from now until 12:30, when you are free to go to lunch or do whatever you need to do, and be back here again at 3 o'clock. All right? Thank you. All right.
Beautiful examples, beautiful things.
Honest to God, I mean, they were wonderful, really.
They were really good.
Really. We are very blessed.
It was not the impression of having something to say, but it was really...
Coming out from the heart, yeah.
I don't know whether it stands.
I'm not so sure it will be a
That's the part of the question. Your introduction is in the morning. Will there be there as well?
I don't know.
I just can say, I hope so. Thank you, Sister
Thank you.
Mary.
Thank you so much. Mwah.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful.
It was a nice experience.
Good, good, good. And you were wonderful. You were wonderful.
Thank you. No, it's well. Yes.
I apologize from Mars. I didn't want to contradict contradict him, but it was important for me to say that we are the church, not
Yes, yes.